The Alcala serial killer. This is the story of a serial rapist, kidnapper, and murderer. In this video, we will be talking about the serial killer Rowan Alcala, but before we start, I would like you to give this video a like and subscribe to this channel. Rodney James Alcala was an American serial killer and sex offender who died naturally on California's execution row. He was condemned to death for 5 killings committed in the state between 1977 and 1979, and he also received a life sentence after pleading guilty to 2 crimes committed in New York in 1971 and 1977. While Alcala has been definitely linked to 8 killings, the exact number of victims is unknown and could be far higher. Authorities fear the true number could be as high as 130. Alcala amassed a collection of over 1,000 images of women, adolescent girls, and boys, many of whom were in sexually explicit situations. He was charged in 2016 with the 1977 murder of a lady identified in one of his photographs. Alcala is known to have abused one additional photographic subject, and investigators have theorized that other victims may have been raped or murdered as well. Prosecutors said Alcala toyed with his victims, strangling them until they passed out, then waiting until they regained consciousness, sometimes repeating this process multiple times before killing them. One police detective described Alcala as a killing machine, and others have compared him to Ted Bundy. Alcala is known as the dating game killer because he appeared on the television show The Dating Game during his murder spree in 1978. Rodney Alcala's parents, Raul Alcala Bucor and Ana Maria Gutierrez, were Mexican immigrants who settled in San Antonio, Texas. Rodney was the third of 4 children born to the couple. Alcala's father took the family to Mexico in 1951, and then he disappeared without a trace 3 years later. Alcala and his 2 sisters moved to a Los Angeles suburb when he was 11 years old in 1954. Alcala was a well-liked and financially secure student with above-average intelligence. Alcala enlisted in the U.S. Army as a paratrooper and clerk in 1961 when he was only 17 years old. His commanding commander in the Army made a note of Alcala's manipulative and vengeful nature, as well as his tendency to ignore commands and push back against authorities. On multiple occasions, Alcala was punished for attacking teenage girls. In 1964, he was discharged from the military on medical grounds after suffering what was described as a nervous breakdown, during which he went AWOL and hitchhiked from Fort Bragg to his mother's house. A military psychiatrist diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder and estimated his IQ at 135. Various psychiatric specialists testifying at his trials later recommended additional diagnoses, including malignant narcissism, comorbid psychopathy and sexual sadism, and narcissistic personality disorder. Alcala left the Army to pursue a degree in filmmaking under Roman Polanski at New York University's Film Studies Department. In 1978, Alcala competed on the hit game program The Dating Game. His father discovered him in the darkroom at the age of 13, fully developed, and the host, Jim Lang, introduced him as a successful photographer. He might go skydiving or riding a motorbike in between takes. Later, one of Alcala's bachelor competition mates called him a very strange guy with bizarre opinions. When the episode's bachelorette, Cheryl Bradshaw, was offered a date with the episode's winner, Alcala, but she declined on the grounds that she considered him creepy. Given that Alcala killed at least 3 women after his appearance on The Dating Game, criminal profiler Pat Brown hypothesized that this rejection may have contributed to his violence. During their examination of known sex offenders, members of the Hillside the Strangler Task Force interviewed Alcala, who had previously worked as a typesetter for the Los Angeles Times. Alcala was arrested and given a short sentence for marijuana possession, but he was never seriously considered a suspect in the Hillside Strangler case. During this period, Alcala convinced hundreds of young men and women that he was a professional fashion photographer and photographed them for his portfolio. After the fact, a Times employee recalled that Alcala had shown his images to the rest of the staff. "I thought it was weird, but I was young. I didn't know anything." The majority of the images are of a sexual nature, and the subjects of most of them are unknown. The police are concerned that some of the people there may be new victims of unsolved crimes. Some of his victims. Ellen Hover. In 1977, after Alcala had been released from prison for the second time, his parole officer in Los Angeles made the unprecedented step of letting a repeat offender and flight risk visit New York City. NYPD cold case investigators have concluded that Ellen Jane Hover, the 23-year-old daughter of Herman Hover, the proprietor of the famed Hollywood nightclub Ciro's and the goddaughter of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr., was murdered by Alcala a week after he arrived in Manhattan. On July 15, 1977, she was reported missing from her apartment on the corner of 3rd Avenue and 44th Street in New York City. A meeting with a John Berger was marked on her calendar for that day. Morgan Rowan, then 68 years old, contacted retired LAPD detective Steve Hodel after Alcala's death in 2021. Hodel was one of the first detectives into the Shapiro case, in which a 16-year-old girl claimed she was attacked by Alcala in 1968. Rowan claimed that, prior to Shapiro's abduction in July 1968, she was approached by Alcala, who called himself Rod, at a teen nightclub on Sunset Strip, and got into his car believing she was going to an IHOP restaurant. This was later confirmed by law enforcement. But Alcala didn't go to the club. He drove to his flat a few blocks away, where he was supposedly hosting a party. Alcala hauled Rowan into his bedroom and locked the door when they arrived. He proceeded to rape and batter her. Friends and associates of Rowan's broke in through a window and rescued him. Alcala bolted, and Rowan's pals dragged her out of the flat. She refrained from telling the police because she was afraid of their reaction. Monique Hoyt. According to testimony presented at Alcala's prosecution, he picked up hitchhiker Monique Hoyt, then 15 years old, in Riverside County on February 14, 1979. He drove Hoyt to his place, where he and she ostensibly had sexual relations with her consent. After getting ready, Alcala photographed her in her pants, and the two of them having sexual relations in a remote mountain location near Banning, California. Hoyt was beaten, raped, sodomized, and hit over the head with a rock before she was finally able to escape after being bound and gagged with a t-shirt. By being as pleasant as possible, Hoyt won Alcala over and convinced her to let him drive her back to Riverside. Hoyt was finally able to get away when he used the loo at a petrol stop. Alcala's mother paid for his release after she filed a police report alleging rape and kidnapping. Jill Barcombe. On November 9, 1977, in Los Angeles, California, Alcala murdered Jill Terry Barcombe, an 18-year-old teenager from Oneida, New York. Barcombe's body was discovered on a dirt trail in the area of Mulholland Drive in Los Angeles. She had been in the area for roughly 3 weeks. Barcombe was discovered naked from the waist down, kneeling on the floor. She had been beaten, strangled with a pair of blue rope ties, and had obvious evidence of sexual abuse. 3 bite marks could be seen on her right breast as well. At first, police suspected that the hillside strangler was responsible for Barcombe's death. Authorities arrested suspects Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Buono, and they believed her case to be connected to them at first. Neither man admitted to the murder, and neither was ever found guilty. Tally Shapiro. On September 25, 1968, Alcala committed his second known crime when a passing Los Angeles motorist named Donald Hines saw him entice an 8-year-old girl named Tally Shapiro into his Hollywood flat. Hines then phoned the police. Shapiro, whose family was staying at the Chateau Marmont Hotel in West Hollywood, was stopped by Alcala on her way to school. He inquired if she needed a ride. After Tally initially declined, she eventually agreed to ride with him after learning that he was acquainted with her parents. After that, Alcala told Shapiro he needed to show her a picture in his flat, so he escorted her there. Shapiro was found alive after having been raped and tortured with a steel bar. Nevertheless, Alcala was nowhere to be found when the police came. Shapiro spent 32 days in a coma and several months recovering. Tally and her family recently moved to Puerto Vallarta from their hometown in Russia. These weren't just his victims, and even though he was arrested, he didn't pay enough for his crimes, as he died of natural causes. This is the end of this video. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Remember to also click the notification bell to get notified when we drop new videos.